Your line up.
I extend most heartily welcome to all the attendees as well as our guest speaker. So we are expecting around 150 candidates again today that will be hearing this guest seminar because of the excitement that they have shown after the end of the session one yesterday. So we got many calls from the students that the session was very lively and interactive and very good. So I have got around 35, 36 WhatsApp messages right after the session was finished. So we have now around 82 participants. So I heartily welcome all the participants also, all the new students that are joining us for the day two of this AMTC webinar series with Excel webinars. So I suppose all the new students have already attended their first lecture. Now they'll be going for the second webinar series that we have arranged for them. So we'll just wait for 1 or 2 minutes and then we can start with our today's schedule. So it's exactly 10:31 and I suppose we can start within next 2 minutes by 10:33 or 10:34 at the max, so that lecture is right on the time. It's 110 participants now. Good morning, everyone. Students are writing good morning on the chat box. Yes, Manjot, I'll just explain the lecture also, and I'll just tell you about the speaker also and the guest speaker that we have arranged for you. And I suppose you were not present yesterday. So that's why you are asking about the topics. So I will just wait for 2 more minutes and then I'll explain you all the details about the today's lecture as well as the expert that we have arranged for you. He's a Guinness Book of World Record holder. So I'll just hold on to next 2 minutes before I introduce the guest speaker. So we have now 130 participants and again we have 1 minute to go before we can start off with the session. I suppose because all the students were engaged in their first lecture till 10:30. So it usually take 2 to 3 minutes to log off from one Zoom ID and log on to another Zoom ID. So usually I think by next 1 minute or 2 minutes, they'll be joining it. 137 participants have already joined. So, okay, I think we have reached the 150 mark. So I suppose we should start. Meantime, more of the students will be joining in. So hello everyone, good morning all. And we have the pleasure of holding this webinar series from Excel webinars. And yesterday we had one session from Raghunath ji, and it was a great session on leadership. And today yesterday there was a small glitch right before the start of the webinar. So I'll introduce Mr. Raghunath ji today. So Our first speaker and instructor for Excel webinars is a man who has made it to the Forbes India Great People Managers list. He has over 30 years of experience in the field of retail and pharma. He has achieved apex heights in his career, yet he is grounded and humble. A 10-minute conversation with him would give immense energy and positivity towards our career. He has trained over 1,500 professionals and students in his career. His name is Mr. J. Raghunath, a marketing expert from Visakhapatnam who has made it to the Guinness World Records last year for holding the largest sales lesson on effective selling skills and cold calling for 328 management students of marketing and retail specialization at a single venue for uninterrupted 53 minutes. A very proud moment for all of us at APJ to welcome him for this online webinar session on leadership. Yesterday, we had held the session on the leadership skills and what the traits a leader must have or the students must have in order to go for the business setting. So today we'll be covering the next topic. And now I would request Mr. J. Raghunath to take over the session. Sir, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kanwal, and thank you for the introduction. I hope your students would be having more clarity about what they are listening to. Thank you very much. And once again, I thank you and the APJ Institute of Management for giving this great opportunity to interact with the youngsters and aspirants of marketing and sales. And yesterday, yes, we were talking about leadership and what kind of leadership theory that we have looked into and styles of leaderships that we have looked into and the nature of leadership where we have really stopped the session. And today I would like to take the other qualities of a leadership if you want to prove yourself as a leader, as a team. Is a screen share option has been given? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the another great quality of a leader is what is people skills. In fact, most of the corporate managers were rated with this parameter, people skills. This is what is a fundamental thing that is required for a leader if he wanted to prove himself in the organization. People skills generally comes with 3 elements. We have to understand one by one so that we can manage people very effectively. The one is emotional intelligence. The leader should have an emotional intelligence, organizational intelligence, and cultural intelligence. This is the blend for a leadership qualities. So let us understand one by one what is an emotional intelligence, organizational intelligence, and cultural intelligence, how it helps you to become a great leader. So emotional intelligence, the name itself suggests that having a self-awareness, that means understanding about the self and seeing what people see you, you should behave like that. It's not that what I behave. You should behave in a manner in what expected from the people, what they see in you. That is what is a self-awareness. And you should also have others' awareness. That means empathy. And people generally say, be in the shoes of others and see, analyze the situation. That is what is required. It is in the emotional intelligence. And one should have a self-management if you want to be a leader. And you should have a tendency to develop relationships. Wherever you are going, or wherever you are dealing with people, you should have a tendency of developing relationships with the environment and the people around you. And understand the situation, emotions that is required and act accordingly. Every leader should look at the environment where he is working and what circumstances or the situations or the vision that he is working, so that he can put his emotional intelligence into that and gain results out of it. This is what we call in a corporate culture is 360-degree evaluation of a manager. So 360-degree evaluation of a manager consists of emotional intelligence, organizational intelligence, and cultural intelligence that the leader possesses. So let us understand now the second parameter of a leader is organizational intelligence. Once you join in an organization, apart from your emotional intelligence, organizational intelligence plays a vital role. You need to understand the culture of the organization where you have joined. Means what? You should understand what is the strategy that has been driven by the company when you are joined, and what kind of people are around you, and what kind of systems that corporate company is adopting, and what kind of operation systems that has got. That gives you a lot of information about the organization. Then you need to inculcate that into your mind and then start designing strategies to your organization with your organizational intelligence, keeping yourself in line with the vision of the organization, communication of the organization, community that you are working for, and take the experiences, whatever the people who are working around you, whether it is a junior or a senior, take those experiences and adapt to the situation and execute the things in a way that will give you results. This is what is organizational intelligence, which will be acquired by a leader once you join in any organization. Apart from organizational intelligence, one should also look into the kind of adoption that is going to do with this organizational intelligence. That is what is very, very important. Understanding of the organization is different, and implementation part is totally different. So there is a great example here which we can discuss about Jim McNary, who is a CEO of Boeing, which has got a lot of problems in 2013. Boeing went into crisis when there is a problem in the lithium ion batteries of Boeing 787 Dreamliner aeroplanes. If the problem is not being addressed, all the airplanes might have crashed in the air. But Boeing quickly acted on it, resolved with the technical problems. But the another problem persisted was still is the reputational problem. Boeing has got a bad reputation during that time, 2013, that people are not willing to fly in Boeing. Those situations, once understanding the organizational intelligence and culture, McNary has thought of an organizational intelligence to play a major role in this situation. What he did, he immediately acted knowing the intelligence of the organization that we should inform all the Boeing passengers of earlier and who have booked and canceled their tickets. Personally, he has interacted with every customer. Nearly it took 2.5 months to explain the technical error that has happened and how effectively Boeing has handled it. This process, whatever he is doing, has started developing trust on the brand, trust on Boeing, and after 2.5 months, it successfully came out of the problem, and people started again booking flight tickets from Boeing. This is what is a cultural intelligence you have to show. You have to be bold enough to accept the problems and explain the problems. Take the level of problems to the consumers, explain how you have handled it and how you are going to make it a trustworthy when you are dealing with the problems. This is a great example of Boeing. And think of this way, your human capital is some of your total skills, talents, and abilities based upon your education and experience. Of course, this has been written in resumes. You know, people, what are the capacities that they have got, the talents that they have got, the abilities that they have got, their education, qualifications, and experiences, it will come from resume. But organizational capital is the value that bring to your organization with your intelligence. That is what makes the difference between a leader and a boss or a normal manager. So be a leader, always understand the organizational culture and show your organizational intelligence is what is currently required in the corporate environment. And during this process, you should also understand, while understanding about the organization vision, culture, and communication systems, and the process and procedures, importantly, you should understand what are all the systems and the team that is behaving in this particular environment. The informal system of connections and relations developed over a period of time, but a manager has to be, a leader has to be aware that the information or the teams that should follow a flow of information. So let's call them as informal networks and understand the hypothetical groups that generally persist in the corporate organizations. We will look at the two examples of a team here. One is with Ed and Mike. There are two groups here, if you can see, Ed and Mike. Both are having teams. But if you look at the team that is maintained by Ed, is almost every team member is separate here, and they have 4 leaders reporting to them, and all 4 leaders reporting to Ed. So let us understand the other system. Whereas Mike has got different teams and different leaders, and these leaders are interconnected again, and all the 4 leaders again are in contact with Mike. Means what? Mike has got a multiple leadership in his team, and every team member is interacting with each other, and every member is interacting with the team leader, and all the team leaders again are interacting with Mike, which makes his job easier and better oriented. So we should understand the systems in the organization, and if it is not in line with your thinking, you should have reframed the teams. The team size should be minimal depending upon the task that they are handling, and the reporting system that has to be in a proper manner, so that every team member will have a connection with the team leader, every team leaders will have a connection, and all the team leaders will have a connection with the leader. So that's how we call it as in the corporate management. There are different types of units. You should have a functional units. You should have a trusted advisors for you at the time of crisis. Connection. Am I audible? I think there is some internet connection problem. Hello.
Yes, sir. Audible, sir.
Yeah. So we need to have a trusted panels or something like, if you are not attending the staff which is in the boundaries, in the peripheries, that they are not reporting directly to you, then there will be a problem. So you need to have a boundary spanners for every 4 team of people. You need to have a manager immediately to track the activities of him. So that's what is a boundary spanners. And you always as a leader look for a structural holes. Like it has got a lot of structural holes here, because nobody is directly reporting. Only 4 leaders are reporting. But what is happening at the team level, he may not be aware of. But Mike has got different leaders connecting with the different teams, and also every team is interlinked. So that's what a better control it ensures. And always try to give opportunities, as Mike has given different people different assignments, and he used to track people back for opportunities, and whatever the opportunities he has given, whether they're performing or not. And the third one is, apart from cultural intelligence, one should have cultural intelligence, organizational intelligence. Apart from organizational intelligence, one should have a cultural intelligence. Means what? Whatever the culture, whatever the organizational culture you are working, or the market culture, or the geographic culture, you should understand if you want to be a successful leader. It's not that just understanding about self, understanding about the organizations. Very, very important is cultural intelligence. Here, a person's capability to adapt very quickly to a cultural context is what makes a true leader. You can have an example for this is Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple in 2013. And Tim Cook has shown a lot of cultural sensitivity when there was a problem persisted with Apple. When 2013 Apple has launched laptops, which has got a back cover problem. There was some technical problem with the back cover, and during selling time, Apple has given 1-year warranty. But as per the Chinese laws, every product should have 2-year minimum warranty, which Apple has forgotten and not communicated to the consumers. And ultimately, Chinese has had to pay $90 to replace the faulty back covers, which has been a big issue for Apple. And this was immediately taken up by Tim Cook, and he wanted to understand the culture. He understood the culture of the Chinese, because that time in the Chinese culture, apologies are hugely accepted, and it was a positive note. whenever somebody says an apology, and Chinese used to immediately accept it and respect them. So he took that cultural sensitivity and immediately he announced to Chinese government and consumers saying that there was a communication, error happened by Apple, and he has openly given apologies to the consumers of China, and which was well accepted by the Chinese. And immediately the warranty has been extended for 2 years for the Chinese, market. So that's how, if you understand, if you know the culture of that particular geography, particular environment, you can act accordingly, which is a great quality of a leader. And once you have that cultural intelligence and organizational intelligence and emotional intelligence, the most important thing is how do you build your teams. In an organization, building teams are going to be the key. The success of any organization or a leader depends upon true teams. So we will learn how to build effective teams in this particular session. So most people will have a haunting feeling that the teams are not performing. Most of the times when we interacted with the managers, they say, my team is not performing. Though I am giving guidance, though I am giving strategies, though I am behind them, but I'm not getting the results. There was something, missing in that particular team, which he has to understand. In this module, we will learn how to design and lead high performance teams, and which will lead to collaboration, high collaboration, and result oriented. As a team leader, you will conduct more productive brainstorming sessions, and also every stage there should be an innovation, there should be a restructuring, there should be a rethinking about your teams. So let us understand how to build teams. Before building a team, a leader has to understand what is the goal that they are working for. That is what is important to build a team according to your goal. So here we can raise a question. So what is the team? Can anybody say what is the team? Can I have a quick chart, please? Am I audible? Can we have a quick chart and what is the team? What is team?
Students can write in the chat box. You have the option of writing it in the chat box. Yes, now students are writing.
Okay, I think the slide is open. Okay, no problem. Most of them are in line with the presentation. Yes, a group is an aggregate of people. If you say that might be wrong, but a team is an interdependent group of people working towards a common shared goal. Every team member will have the same goal. It's a common shared goal. And there are two key parts to the definition. One is interdependent, means that none of the team member can successfully accomplish a goal by himself. That means he needs the support of another team member. So that is what is the team. And a shared goal means all the team members have the same desired objective or the outcome. So this is what is a team. And what are the key ingredients for a team success? If you ask, to be successful teams, it needs three things, which we call it as triple E degree for a leadership quality. The triple E degree means the team should have expertise in the group, engagement, and execution. That means what? Your team should consist of members who are expertised in this particular goal setting or expertised in dealing with that particular activity, and the team should have people you need to have executors depending upon the goal that you have decided, and they need to be motivated continuously, they need to be engaged, and they need to be closely monitored for the results. The team design is what if you look at, should we design the team in the same way? The answer is no. The team design depends upon the kind of objective that has been set in and the kind of activities that the team is going to do. So generally in a corporate environment, there will be three types of tasks the leaders will be doing. Number one is the tactical teams. Number two is a problem solving teams. And the third one is a creative teams. The tactical teams, they generally call it in the sense of marketing and sales. They call it as a BTL or ATL teams, high net worth individual, customers handling teams, kitty teams, MC teams, sales teams. So those are tactical teams. And these teams particularly need lot of commitment, lot of practice, because they are going to deal with the outside environment or the consumers, apart from the internal team members. And the second one is a problem solving team. These teams will come into picture whenever there is a problem in the activity or an overall objective of the organization. So this team definitely will have a lot of importance because they are going to deal with the problems, not with the tactical activities. And generally these teams in the corporate organizations, they have a lot of value in the organizations, because every person in the team who are problem solving, they have to depend upon variety of factors, depending even on the environment, on the consumer's point of view, or the feedback mechanisms, or the internal loopholes. All these things they have to understand and create an environment that, or give a solution to come out of these problems. So organizations will keep a lot of trust on these people, especially in two ways. One is a benevolence, that is kindness based trust, and the competency based trust. So we should believe blindly one, because they are working to solve the problem. The second one is what we should have a trust on them, that they on the competencies that they are going to solve these problems. And the third type of team is a creative teamwork. As you know, many organizations will have these teams wherein they purely work on creating newer things or creativity on particular aspects which has been given to them. So these teams are experts. They know how, various activities, or they design various activities creatively so that it reaches the consumer and it also impacts the complete goal of the organization. So now once the team is understood, what should be the team size and diversity? Many leaders and companies want to form dreams or dream teams by getting the stalwarts or superstars in the company as a team. And together they wanted to happen some magic. Bottom line, it's not enough. Having your top stars in a group will never give a results. Magic will never happen. Probably if everybody is aligned in a proper manner with a leader who is going to guide them, is going to give results. So here again, leader is the most important person to lead the teams or the team sizes and diversity. And while framing the teams, a leader should avoid two bias. One is overstaffing bias and homogeneity bias. Means what? You should not see that your team is not overstaffed, or there will be similar kind of people in the team. Always there should be diversity. One should be thinking, one should be good at team field work, one should be good at writing, one should be good at communication, one should be good at handling queries, one should be good at creativity. So those kind of people you have to select and form a team so that you will get better results. The Harvard single digit rule says that the team size should not exceed from 5 to 9. 9 is a maximum team size. That's why if you look at the kind of informal systems that we have seen, the team diversities we have seen, Mike has got different groups with 5 to 7 people in every team. But those are reporting to leaders, sub-leaders, and those sub-leaders are reporting again to main leader. So that's how the team design should work for a corporate culture. And one should understand the faultiness lines, especially when you are creating teams. If your team is working properly, there is no issue. If there is any issue, then one should look at for the faulty lines in your teams or the performance. Immediately you should act upon it, where the faultiness is, how it has arisen, go into in-depth and understand where is the problem and immediately rectify that. That is what is going to be the quality of a leader. And second, create energy and excitement around the task as a leader. So whenever you can do this, team's performance definitely will be better than normal teams. And when conflict arises, it's the leader who has to be in the forefront in addressing these conflicts. So let us understand what are the conflicts and how to handle it. So what are the best practices for a team? That is, assemble the fewest number of people as possible. And second one, create a grid with potential people as the rows and their competencies in the columns, so that you will understand which team member has got what kind of potentiality, what kind of skills. Then accordingly, you can design your teams. And for each person, ask yourself what skills and expertise does he can exhibit during the task. And third thing, make sure you don't have an overlap of the people. And finally, the truth is the disclosure. Means what? Whatever the team task or team goal has to be shared with every team member. There should not be any inhibitions in sharing, or there should not be any secrecy in doing a task. So that is what is very, very important. Most of the failure cases we observe that the end task member not really knowing about the final outcome of the task. That is what is a failure. Even the end staff who is working has to know, he has to know about what is the outcome that the objective is going to look at. Then only the performance will be fine-tuned. So then what could be the team roles and rules? The ideal is the manager and the team should have clear roles and responsibilities. If you are designing a team for tactical activities, you should frame what is the objective of the tactical team, what is they are going to do, what is the process that they're going to adopt, what kind of communication they are going to use, what kind of systems they are going to adapt for to do these activities, and what could be the feedback mechanism. And finally, the orientation of entire activities has to be monitored very closely. And one has to be very, very transparent in dealing with the teams. You should have attitude of fairness, especially when dealing with team. You should deal as if that I'm dealing with every person in a similar fashion and a similar way. There should not be any partialities when dealing with the teams, which will lead to black holes in the teams. Now, once the teams are set in, and how to take the team decisions is going to be the vital and key role, especially for a leader. So team decision making always should be evidence based. A leader has to take any decision based on the evidence only. Without evidence, we should not take any kind of decisions. Team should make decisions like a scientist. That's what people say. That means they should have a proper understanding of the problem. They should do a research on problem, where it has started and where it has been existing now, how many people are affected with this, or what kind of impact that is going to create on the team. All those things has to be closely observed. As a scientist, you have to do a research, and then only with the evidences we need to take actions. Here are the 5 key principles that will help you to lead your teams. Number 1, use data norms versus polite norms. Never go with politeness with the team. You should always believe in your data. What data says, what kind of reports it is giving. If I am given a task of having 100 leads a day or 100 contacts a day and 8 leads per day, if I'm getting only 3 leads or 2 leads, that is the data which is going to tell me about what kind of work the team is going to do. And then do a little research on why the numbers are less. Is there is a problem in the communication, or problem with the team that is communicating to the consumer, or the communication message that is wrong? So many factors we have to analyze to understand that. And always encourage debate norms versus polite norms. You should always encourage your team members to debate in themselves. so that you can understand what is happening really, so that you will get clues when they are debating, and according to the clues you can take a decision. The politeness ritual refers to the fact that people often say rather than they'll really think on the object. If you ask somebody where is the problem, they may say wrong. But if you understand closely and encourage the debate, within the debate you will come to know so many clues you will get, so that you can understand really what is the problem. And the biggest thing that a leader should do is he should be mingling with his teams. That means he should not have any egos. He should leave his status whenever he is entering into the team's room. He should behave like a team member. In fact, this was a system very well adopted in Japan. Whenever there is team meetings are happening, the lowest of the lowest person, that means an office assistant, will be allowed to talk first, and then the next level, and then the next level, and finally the leader will speak. Means what? Giving importance to every member in the team is what is going to be the key for a leader. And conduct private votings whenever there is a problem. Suppose if you see a problem in the team, and then you conduct a private voting, what is the problem? You can write and put it in a box without writing your name. So all the team members, if it is a 9 team members, they'll write problem is because of this, and they'll write without their names, they'll put it in a box. So that will give you a lot of inputs, so that it will not affect the team, because who has written that, nobody knows it except the boss. Later on he will discuss the teams, and then he will come to know who has written that, and he can take corrective actions. And always invite different perspectives. It is better to have a person genuinely disagree with the group speaks upon than person who disagrees with you. Especially when there is a discussion happening, you should allow your team member to talk negative aspects of your performance or negative aspects of your activity. That you should encourage, apart from positive feedbacks. Negative feedbacks has to be rewarded, in fact, so that because they are going to give inputs to you and drive your team. So always take evidence-based decisions, and always hold multiple short meetings whenever you want to discuss the teams, rather than having a large meetings. And while handling the teams, understanding the teams, when you are taking a diversified teams, because you have all the intellectuals, all the people with knowledge, and some people with field experience, some people with customer handling experiences. So generally, these teams definitely will have a conflict. There will be a little egoism in the teams. So as a leader, you should have a conflict management skills. So we will discuss about what are the conflict management skills as a leader you should possess. So there will be two different type of conflicts generally in the corporate environment you will be facing. One is the relationship conflict, as I said, that I'm working in a consumer department, or I'm working in a frontline activity, or somebody is saying that I am taking the leads and I'm giving the business. So there will be definitely a personal conflicts, and there will be a task conflict. Second thing, task means what? You have been given a big task, I have been given a small task, you have been given an easy task. So these kind of conflicts generally arises, and in all these issues, a manager, especially leader, should develop relationship with the teams in a proper manner. Every team member, he should develop relations, both emotionally and with professionalism. And if he has that relationship, he can handle the conflicts well compared to normal things. So optimizing conflicts is what is the key for a leader. So task conflicts may help group performances. Suppose if something is happening with the task, somebody is saying that I have given a huge task, whether the other person is given a smaller task, that may create a lot of problems in the group. So one should understand immediately about that and discuss with each team member that the team task has been shared equally or not. If you have 6 groups with 6 leaders working, sub leaders, and you are the final leader, you should always interact with your sub leaders, what is happening in the teams, whether the information has been shared, whether the task has been given equally or not, which will definitely resolve the task. Still the problem persists, then you should use 4-pronged approach to fix these conflicts. So this four-pronged approach is step one is team redesign. If you feel that the problem persists with the team design, that means there is some problem in the team, identify scientifically, identify with the data, discussing with your sub-team leaders, and then if possible, redesign or reassign the work to the people whom you are feeling it's not comfortable. That will definitely resolve your problems. Step two, team coaching. Always you should have sessions with the teams by coaching them what they are supposed to do and what is the outcome that they are expecting. Always give them a strategy, always give them the guidelines so that the conflicts doesn't arise as much as with the normal teams. Step three, conflict skills. Sometimes team members have different opinions and experiences with regard to conflict and expressing disagreements. And here we should have a spirited conversations with the teams. It's not that a general conversation. What is the problem that he is facing? Why he is facing that problem? What kind of things that he's looking at to solve this? Discuss with other team members and share those ideas so that the other team members will help him to resolve the problem. So there the conflict you can resolve. And step four, personal coaching. If still the problem is persisting, then call that person personally into your room and then give him a personal coaching that what this, especially the task, is going to do for his career, how he is going to change his career, how he is going to benefit him both personally and professionally. Explain him, coach him, give them the confidence and give them the motivation, and again send back him to the teams. Observe closely again for a certain period so that he mingles with the team and performs. So let us sum it up regarding conflicts. And all the conflicts especially has to be dealt by the leader effectively using this four-pronged method. And as a leader, you need to role model the king of debate you want to have. You always should encourage the debate mechanism compared to a discussion mechanism. If you have a debates, definitely you will be a better leader compared to the normal situations. And always keep in mind, if you want to be a successful leader, you should have teams with creativity. Always keep ready your team, create a team with people with creative mind, and give them a plenty of opportunities to show their meta, to show their creativity, which will be useful to your organizational goals. Creativity starts upstream of innovation. Everything has to be innovated. Normally, many companies we have seen different creative thoughts. When we have visited one of the corporate company, they have got a different people, with their talents, which was stuck on the notice board, and which will keep on encouraging others also that they have to do such kind of creative things. And in one company, there was a lot of inputs which have been thrown, which have been kept on a room, so that people will go and sit there and start thinking about each item, what they can do differently, or what they can recreate from the existing ones. So there's many activities that is going on with the team activity, team creativity, which is a key for a leader always, because this will give you newer ideas, innovations, especially that you're going to suggest for your organization. And the best practices for the team creativity is always brain writing. Encourage your teams for brain writing. There are two fundamental principles to generate ideas and creativity. The number one is brainstorming sessions. As a leader, you should conduct brainstorming sessions and brain writing sessions. Brainstorming sessions is what? The verbal generation of ideas. But brain writing is writing down the ideas immediately as and when they get. So nowadays, brain writing sessions has been improving a lot, or taken different route compared to brainstorming sessions. So one should encourage brain writing sessions with the teams to get the creative ideas. So whenever, if you have any problem with the teams, always the next step is go for a voting. Give everyone 5 posts given the ideas, and whatever the idea they posted, the most exciting post, you reward them. 10 minutes you have to give them a time to think upon, 5 to 10 minutes for each post. And then if they come out with an idea which is a creative, with a basic idea, then you reward them and start working as a team how to break that creativity and bring it into innovation and help the organizations to achieve. So best practice for team creativity, Again, we were discussing about the 5 more ideas to spark creativity in your team is always look for quantity, not the quality. People generally say that I want a quality idea or quality creativity. It won't come like that. First, encourage for the quantity. I want 10 ideas today. I want 20 ideas today. That will give you a lot of scope for the points, so that the best of the best, points that you can take it and then start thinking from there onwards. And if you have any problems, the second step is in the team, you're not getting, enough feedbacks, enough, points for the creativity, then try to change a little bit in the teams, so that give them some, new teams, new fresh brains, so that they will start thinking about again with the process. And 3, whenever you wanted them to have a suggestion, always ask them to stand up and give suggestions, because in a scientific evidence that standing will give a lot of ideas compared to sitting or lying positions. And finally, changing group compositions by inviting outsiders. Whenever you feel like there is a standstill in the creativity, you have to invite outsiders, you have to invite intellectuals, and then interact with them in the group, so that you will start working, your brain starts working, and then give you newer ideas. So let us create creative teams, build organizations, and achieve goals. Is the team there? So that's what as a leader you can do. I hope this session is useful to you, and it might have thrown some inputs for you for your future career. I wish every student that they should aspire more, they should take higher positions in their future, and prove as excellent marketing leaders and sales leaders. Thank you very much for once again for giving this opportunity. Any questions? If 5 minutes, if it is there, we can take it up, or else we can wind up the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a knowledgeable and lively session. I suppose if any student is having any of the question, he or she can write it in the Q&A box. So we'll just have 2 more minutes, then we can move on to our regular classes. So I hope all the students must have learned the required leadership skills, as well as such similar traits. And very important is implementation in the corporate organizations. You must learn, as well as you have to implement these skills. Please explain the tactical part of leadership.
Yeah. See, tactical part of leadership is what I mentioned is very, very important for the marketing and sales professionals, because tactical leadership completely, involves in the field marketing or the ATL and BTL activities. That is where the marketing and sales people are going to work. So ATL is above the line activities and BTL is below the line activities. And we invented, and many of the corporates, in fact, they invent a lot of tactical activities into the field. If you look at the organizations who have started working in the rural areas and the suburban areas with the different teams that are working physically in the markets. So that is what is a tactical activity to be invented. Even in our organizations, we have invented rural teams where we named it as go-to-market models. This was an innovation, especially in the tactical activities. These go-to-market models will define or will take the organizational, objective to the root level of, rural markets. We have developed a team called a CSR branding teams. So normally you don't get CSR branding teams, you get a CSR teams. But in our organizations, we have developed CSR branding teams, where these teams in a small groups, 4 to 5 people, will go to different geographic patches in the districts, especially to the villages where generally your branding won't reach. So they go physically there, they conduct a lot of activities with the villagers, especially organizing product awareness campaigns, especially in the jewelry segments. We did a lot of activities, and especially in the consumer products divisions, a lot of activities has been done in the rural areas with the small groups, gathering of villagers, explaining about the features and benefits of the products, and also giving a product knowledge to them, or the kind of benefits that they are going to enjoy with the product, which has given a lot of results, dividends to the organizations, because those villagers directly started communicating to the organization, coming to the organizations or the physical shops to buy those products. And not only that, the CSR activities which has been designed, especially in the GTM models, these small teams will approach the villagers, identify the minimum needs of the villagers, like in a schools, in a primary government schools where there is no drinking water facility, where there is no proper sanitation. They go and do those kind of CSR activities on behalf of the organization and start developing branding activities, and that's how they are creating brands. And immediately every village, when they do a CSR activity, they start interacting with the village assistants and village panchayat presidents and all, gathering the people, explain the brand, why they are doing this, what is the need of the hour, and then taking the brand to the next level in the minds of the villagers, so that they look for the product when they wanted to buy with that organizations. This was a new innovation, and also a part of developing even the tactical teams in terms of reaching HNIs. We developed HNI teams. These teams will identify high net worth individuals and start reaching them at their doorsteps with the product or innovation, or with the technology that has been used, like video shoppings, tactical activities, which is especially video shoppings, try at home. These are the new things that has been evolved in the corporate culture. These tactical activities has been designed to reach the consumer in different ways, taking the advantage of the technology and also the teams that are going to do a peripheral work, especially in the areas where a brand communication is not reaching. So that's how the tactical culture, tactical thinking of a leader has emerged nowadays in the corporate culture, which is definitely adding a lot of value for the brands.
Right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. It was an absolute honor. I hope Prince Gupta, your question has been answered. So, okay, so it was an absolute honor to listen to you for this 2-day session with you, sir. And I hope all the students must have learned a lot in these 2 days.
Thank you.
We look to invite you, sir, in near future also for such fruitful sessions for our students. And thank you so much, sir, for joining us. And it was a pleasure listening.
Yeah, Mr. Kanwal, just I wanted to tell one thing. Looking at the interest that the organization has got and you has got and your students. So I want to just give an offer saying that the students who are very much interested, they can follow me on LinkedIn. I got a lot of articles which is posted in LinkedIn, which they can go through. And if they are really interested on marketing, especially, and branding, communication, marketing plan, media planning, so many things. If they want, we can also have a session separately to them, and it will be definitely very, very useful to them. You can follow me on my LinkedIn, Raghunath Jonnavithila. So if you type, you will get that. You can raise a request, or you can send me a connection request. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thank you for giving me an opportunity.
Surely, sir. I will follow it up with the students.
Thank you.
So now I request all the existing students, I mean the third semester onward students, they should attend their regular classes, and they can leave this particular ID. And for new students or the new admissions, you will have a 15 minutes break now, right? And then you have to join the previous Zoom IDs. The Zoom IDs that you have used for your first lecture. The same Zoom IDs will work for your next 2 sessions. So after 15 minutes from now, like it's 11:25, so you can join back at 11:40 around. So you have to use the previous Zoom IDs. For MBA, I can repeat the ID. It was 959-0647-5219. So password is AIMETC, small letters AIMETC. ID for MBA is 959-0647-5219. It has been already sent on your SMS also. You can check your mobiles, right? For BBA BCom, it is 812-5971-2862. I repeat, for BBA BCom, 812-5971-2862. So it was same ID that you have used for the first lecture. And for all other courses, the ID would be 835-8331-0638. I repeat, 835-8331-0638. The password for all these courses will be AIMETC. So thank you very much for all. I suppose everybody is clear about the Zoom IDs and where they have to join after 15 minutes break. Your both lectures, the 2 sessions that are pending for today, will be from this particular ID that I have just mentioned. Thank you so much.
Uzair sir?